Good day, everyone. Now the topic we are working on for this week is the halter neck dress. So for you to do your halter neck dress, it's about interpreting the neckline in a different way, which means from the name of the dress, halter neck, it means you're trying to alter the basic shape or the basic neckline that you're actually used to. And there are different kind of halter neck styles that you can work with, but for today we are doing the kind of halter neck that has a wrap band to the back part of the neck, which sometimes you can suspend it with either hook and eye or a button. So that's what I want to do. So I want to show you the process. Now the first thing you need to do is to transfer your dart from the shoulder to the armhole. And how do you do that? For those of you that have done that manipulation, you understand that this is very easy to do. And if you don't have the dart manipulation video yet, you can request for it and you see how to transfer your dart from the shoulder to the armhole. Now once a dart is transferred from the shoulder to the armhole, it automatically forms the empire dart, while the dart that is connected from shoulder to the one on your waistline is called the princess dart. So now transfer your dart. This is my point X. So now transfer the dart from the shoulder to the arm. And how do you do that? First of all, measure whatever you have from SP, which is your shoulder point here, to the underarm here. What I have here was 11.5 cm, and when I divided into 2, this was the point of the midpoint of this armhole round. So once you get that, point it, then use a ruler to connect it back to your dart point, which is this point here. Are you with me? So which is this point. So once you have done that, now the next thing to go for is, once you have connected from this mid armhole to this point of the dart, which is your point X here, then you look for the midpoint between this point and this point. When I measured mine, I have, this is 7 cm, which means the mid half of 7 cm is 3.5 cm. So this is my 3.5 cm here when I measured from here, and from here I went up 0.75 cm. That means if you are working with adult size, you do 1.5 cm. The essence of this measurement we are taking here is to get the curve of this particular pattern we are working on, and that's what I want to do here. So I'm doing 0.75 here, so I will measure that 0.75, then I will use my curve ruler and the slightly curved part of the ruler and place it from the armhole point touching this point X. This is what I did now. Place it here and touching this point X. Now this is what you are going to have eventually. Do you get now? So now I'm going to close this my dart. So I'm closing the dart. For those that are just seeing how to close that for the first time, this is how to close your dart. I'll close it now so I can do that transfer the way I want it to be done. Just like you already know that you can always transfer these darts as desired. Just like you all know before. Now, I already closed my darts. And what happens when you close your dart is that the pattern will not be balanced like usual. So once you have closed your dart, now that means the dart is no longer existing on the shoulder line anymore. Now I can cut here now. And because we are doing empire darts, understand that for you to achieve a smart empire or princess dart, you need to link up this dart point here, this one on the middle, you link it to the full length of your dress. And I'll measure what I have here. So for my center front to that dart, I have 5.5 cm. So you do the same thing to the full length of the dress. Then you square it down. That shows that this dart is coming downward. So when I'm cutting, so it's going to follow width to the armhole. So once this is done, now I can now proceed to interpreting the neckline. Now, one thing about interpreting neckline is that you need the pattern of the back and the front in this regard. For you to do your halter neck, you need the pattern of the front and the back. And if you realize that your dart is going to disturb you here, you can transfer your dart to the underarm, that is the side bust. You can transfer your dart here, you see me, so that you can have enough space to work with the shoulder of the front and the back. But that's not what we're doing. So let me go back to here where I am. Do you see me now? So now the first thing you need to do in trying to get your halter neckline is that most halter neckline usually come with a V shape in front, which means it's always a bit deep, and you can determine how deep you want the front neck to be. Already you know that because it's halter neck, it's going to be a backless back. The back is going to be backless, your back is going to be exposed. So you now choose how much you want that exposure to be. So for me now, for my MP, I'm going to do, here now I'm going to do 3 cm. For my MP, I'm measuring 3 cm. Then on my, from my depth here, I'm going to do 9 cm. 9 cm. From the hollow of this neck, I measured 9 cm down, and from my MP, I measured 3 cm. So now, you now connect it. Once you have done that, connect the 9 cm on the neck depth to the 3 cm to form your V neck shape. So now this is what I have, but now I need you to understand something here again as I'm working with this neckline. You need to connect from your MP to the 9 cm and not to this 3 cm. The 3 cm is going to be the width of the strap that is going to come out for the halter neck. So now I'm going to connect from my MP now to this point, to that 9 cm, from the MP to the 9 cm. So I'll have this. So now I have this. Now the next thing for you to now bring the shoulder of the back with the front. Do you see me now? Bring the shoulder of the front to touch that of the back. And when you are doing that, make sure that the MP of the front touches the MP of the back pattern. And once they touch, ensure that the shoulder part of the front, which is the SP, this close to the hammer, let it touch or lap on that of the back by 1 cm. Let it lapse. See, you see me now? I'm pressing this MP of the front to touch the MP of the back. Then this part of my pattern, which is this part, is going to lap. See, it's not going to just be like this. Do you see me now? It's going to lap along this line by 1 cm. You see me now? So I measure 1 cm here, and this is lapping. So you can hold it down now. Now as you can see me now, MP is touching MP, but here the front pattern is lapping on that back part by 1 cm. Can you see it? 1 cm is a standard for actually drafting your halter neck pattern, and I hope you can get me clearly. So now, in continuation, now you can see that on my own pattern I already added my center back. So what you need to now do now is to link the same strap width of the front, which was 3 cm, as the back. So whatever strap width you have here now I have 3 cm. So the same thing will go with that of the back. Then all you need to now do now, following the neckline, you do your what? 3 cm all through. 3 cm all through. 3cm all through until you get to this point. Now by the time you now place your ruler, it gives you the same shape as already drafted out on the pattern. You see now? So now you can see that all of this part of this back pattern is no longer too relevant for use. And like I said, that the back is going to be backless. So now that you've done this connection of the strap of the front and the back, now there's going to be a button stand here, either 2 or 1, because this one is going to lap. Already this is where this one is supposed to stop on the center back line, but because I already created my zipper allowance line there, then it's going to stop at this point. That means it's going to lap, then to lay very well at the back. Now you are not done yet, because it's halter neckline. Definitely a part of your armhole is exposed, because you are linking the armhole to the drafted or desired shoulder width. So now what is next now is to link from this part of your strap width, which is the shoulder width now, 3cm, to the armhole. And the best way to do it is to make sure that you reduce a bit on the armhole. You come down on the armhole by 1 cm. 1 cm here. Come down. So when you are coming, then you now place your ruler. Place your ruler. Now watch what I'm doing here. So now this is what I will do now. From a MP, I will do this. Now as you can see now, I came down. So because of the armhole shaping, I came down more than even the 1 cm I asked you to come down. The same thing on your side, you can as well exceed the guideline that was given to you. It's not a must be just like that's 1 cm, you can exceed that particular measurement. Now that means that wherever the shaping you did on the underarm or the front, where it stops is where the back is going to start from. Now do I mean? From my underarm here, I have 2 cm. So that means when I come to the back pattern, which is this one, I'm going to measure 2 cm down the armhole. I measure my 2 cm down because that was what I have here. From here to this point was 2 cm. I'll do the same thing on the back armhole. I'll measure down 2 cm. Then I'll square it to the center back like this. Most times, the center back can have a V-shape cut and it can be straight. So it depends on your choice of style. So, like I was saying, just like I explained the other time, that once you're done with the strap at the back, connecting the shoulder of this with this, I said for the armhole part, you still need to connect from the width of your shoulder strap to the armhole point. But connecting to the armhole point is not always the correct process. All you need to do is to bring it down below the armhole. So while doing mine was 2 cm below the armhole in front, and I said once it is whatever you have coming down on the armhole in front, you should do the same thing at the back. And when I measured, for mine, this was 2 cm downward. You can do as much as you want. This is 2 cm. Then you come to the back part of the pattern and come down 2 cm. So there was something I was actually saying the other time, that you can as well reduce the central back neckline, even though when you know that all of this place is no longer on the back part, because that's why it is backless. So you can decide to slant or curve the back neckline at the center back. What do I mean by that is, while we have this one straight, you can leave it straight and you can leave it curved. I can decide to come down here by 1.5 cm. So my back looks like this, but it's not going to exceed, so that by the time this pattern comes together, they will start off at the same point. Meanwhile, by the time this pattern comes together, you can see what I have there. By the time you come, this one laps at the back, as you're seeing it. By the time it comes together, they start on the same spot. Then you can still have your normal zipper, or it can be without zip. Just have that in mind that it's going to be without zip, because I don't need to put any zip because it's already an halter neck dress. So now I want to do the cutting now so you can understand what I'm saying. Now for the cutting, it's going to be like this. So I have this already, and don't forget the fact that we are still doing the empire dart, and I said the empire dart is supposed to come from the mid arm hole, just like we did before. Now, so for the back, because it's going to be backless, so this one will be cut out from this point. Like I said, you can have it straight, you can have it slanted, but I'm not going to have a center back zip. But if you want to add a zip, it's still very much possible. Now if you look at this now, putting it together, this is what I'm going to have for the back. Placing them side to side seam, this is what I'm having here. You see it? And this is what makes your halter neck to come out. Then don't forget that I'm not done with the front neck. I need to cut it out, and at the same time I need to also cut the dart. So this is what I have for the front. You're cutting this just like I said from your SP MP up front. Cut out the desired shape of block. Now I have this. I have my neckline. You know fairly well that this one is going to the back, and that's what makes it the halter neck dress. Then now my dart. Now let me show you the cutting. Now I'm going to cut this one out now. So I'm going to have CF1 and I'm going to have CF2. While for the back, I'm going to maintain my dart the way it is. I don't need to do any extra cutting out, and that's what I want to do now. So all you need to do is to start the cutting. So the cutting starts from this point. So I'm cutting this out. Then you're going to follow what you have done here the other time, which was this. Do you get? Then for this one, you just need to cut out this part of the dart here. So now this is what you have when you are done cutting, and this is the perfect picture of the empire look of whatever you're working on. To get it now, this is the empire look, because an empire that usually comes from the arm hole, then linking it towards the other darts. That's what we have there. And as for the back, when you join it together with this, you have your full halter neck dress look. You can do whatever style you want to do, but the one we are doing is with empire dart. So now we can now go to the sewing or the cutting process. Now understand that this one is going to have your normal side seam allowance, and for each panel you are joining at any point in time, it's important to understand that all panels will always take 0.5 inches allowance, but because it's miniature you can do 1 cm. So I'm going to add my panel allowance here, and I'm going to add my side seam. If you want a zipper at the back, you can go ahead and put or add your own zipper allowance. Then I'll also have to show you how to use your facing to knitting both the neckline area and the strap you have there. See, now my halter neck is not having the center back zipper allowance, but if you want to add the zipper allowance, then you add the zipper allowance at the center back. But I'm not adding any zipper allowance. Do you get? So you can still add zipper allowance and attach either the invisible zipper or the open-ended zip. So whichever one you want is a choice to make. Now I want to cut the CF1 of the pattern, so I've placed my center front on the folded part of the fabric, and you can see this is the V-neck line we created. You can see shape it if you want, but that will have been done first on the pattern. So now I'm going to add my sewing allowance for the panel, because the front is actually into two different panels. That's why we have the CF1 and the CF2 here, the CF2. So you know they have to be joined together to become just one piece. But then for me to do that, I need to add allowance around all of this place, 1 cm, and I need to add other allowance as well around here for knitting the strap and the band that is going to the back. So that's what I want to do now. So now I'm much done with the cutting. I've been able to cut all of the front and all of the back. Then from the sewing process, you're going to get a better understanding of how to put it together and become a beautiful halter neck dress. Now don't forget that I also had to cut lining for it. You can as well do facing, but I just actually cut lining. But what I did was that the lining was not at the same length with the full length of this particular dress. I had to shorten it by 4 inches, and I did that on each of them. I have my lining as well. I have lining at this back, so the lining are on the same length, just as the way the fabric are on the same length. I have my ME allowance, my side seam allowance, and I have the pattern allowance here, and I also added allowance around all the necessary points. So I expect that when you're doing yours too, you follow the same process so that you can have a well finished job. So we meet on the practical section. Thank you. Now I want to do the practical of the halter neck dress that we did on the board today. So as you can see, this is my back pattern with the facing to it. Then I have my front pattern as well. I have my front pattern here of the halter neck, and I have my facing as well, and I have this with the facing included. So now I'm going to start doing the joining so that you can see how you're going to also put yours together. So the first thing you need to do is for you to sew your dart allowance at the back. Sew the darts, then do the same thing on the facing or the lining per se. This is the lining because it's not that short. I only reduce it by a few inches away from the full length. So now I can start my joining now. Now I've been able to join my dart allowance on the back part. So now the next thing for me to now do is to join the facing. Let me complete the front of this. The first thing for you to do is you understand that this is an empire dart. So once you open it, the first thing is for us to join these together. So I'll place this one here. Now it's going to be right side on right side. So you sew the panel seam allowance for the Empire dart, and I'm sewing with 1 cm. Please, you can try and pin your work in place. So when you are done, you have this. So I've been able to join mine, and I have my panel joint. So you do the same thing for this side. Make sure that the right side of this one on the right side of the center front panel. Now I'm having this now, so I have a complete pattern for the front now. So you do the same thing on the facing too, on the lining rather. I have to join the lining. Then when I'm done with the lining, then I now use the lining to turn the neckline and the armhole of this. So let me join this one now. I'm joining the facing as well. So when you're done with this, all you need to do now is you use this facing or the lining per se to turn the neckline. Just to turn the neckline and the armhole of these clothes. Do you get it now? I'm going to use this to turn the neckline and turn this armhole. So it's important that you pin your work together. So now, starting from the hammer, so you open this seam. On the normal day, you're supposed to go ahead and iron your Empire seam line open. So it's good that you can notch your hammer area to avoid some just snipe a little. I don't usually do this. Depend on you. If you iron it very well, it's going to relax. But for sharp corners or sharp points on your neckline, it's important that you carefully just those are the points where we need to. So at this time, remove everything. Then you turn it out. Now I have this, so when you iron it, so this is what I have now, as you can see. So I'll go ahead and sew the back so I can combine or bring the front and the back together. Don't forget that when we are done, this is going to lap this way at the back. We're going to have this kind of lapping on the person's back. But for now, let's Let me join the back. Now for the back, since we're having the back, now all you need to do now is to place this, place the lining right on right, and so from the zipper point, this is my zipper point on the neckline, and that's what I want to do. So just, because this is my neckline of the back area, from the zip point do the same thing for this. So now I've been able to sew my facing. So now this one, now when it comes in this way, it makes the inner side of the halter neck dress to be neat. Do you get it now? Sorry boy. Still going inside. So now this is my back now, and I still have my lining behind it, my lining, and this is the full front itself with the halter neck shape. I've done everything I need to do. You can see the inside of it is looking nice. So the next thing for us to do now is to like join together the back part of the clothes with the front. And how do you do it? Make sure that the right part of the clothes, which is the main clothes, facing the main clothes here, just like you see, and lining is just to lining, as you can see here. So I'm going to join now, and while joining, I'm only going to join along this line. Make sure that this point touches this point. Do you get now? As long as this part has aligned. So I'm going to add my normal sewing allowance of 1 cm. As you can see that my lining of the back and the front are actually meeting. That's to show you that I actually cut them to be on the same length. Even the main fabric of the back and the front are also meeting. So that's the same way you should also try to meet up with your own cutting and sewing as well. So now, if you look at this now, from what I have here, so I'll do the same thing for the other side, but then, since you have done that, so you do the same thing for this other side. I'm making sure that the main fabric, the main clothes now, this is my main back, this is my lining. So make sure that the main cloth touches the main clothes, length to length. Then on the armhole point here, let this one touch here, and bring the lining to also touch each other. Then you can now start your joining. Don't forget that your sewing starts from the base of the dress. So you can see that what I have here, everything aligned. Then now, what is left now is, now let me knit in my lining, of which you two must actually have to do that to make sure that your lining is very much okay. Okay, before I do that, yes, I need to, it's not needed, just do it. Now, because I have not put my zip, so I'm going to close the zipper till I fix the zip. For those of you that can fix zip, it's not bad, it's still the same process. So I'll close my zip area because there's no zip here now, so I'll just close it. Mind, always leave your seam lines open. Your seam lines will always be open, and the fixing of the zip is still the same way. But I'm supposed to show you that I didn't lock it because I know I'm still going to put zip. You see now that my lining is closed, so I also close the main fabric as well. That's why I was thinking that I should do the hemming of the lining the other time. But I just like, since I'm not putting it here, there's no need for me to go and just do the hemming. But you all know that on a norm, if I were to have my zipper here with me, I'm supposed to fix the zip before doing the full closure. Now this is what I have now, and already this one is going to come to the back and lap this way. Now before I finish everything, let me do the hemming of the bottom of the dress, which most times you come to the center back, then you hem according to whatever you have added. So always keep your seam lines open to avoid bulkiness and wrong positioning of your I'll do the same thing on my lining. Don't say because it's lining that you leave the edges very rough. So the same hemming I did on the main fabric, I'll do it on my lining. So my overall work is ready. So that is it about doing an halter neck dress of your choice and on the style. Then this one will look this way. So I'm done. I would like to see your styles and see how you can express yourself working with the halter neck dress. You can as well do cutting on the waistline and add anything or detail that you want to have on your own dress. You are not limited to what you can achieve with your dress pattern. Thank you and do have a nice day.